down. I didn't get much sleep last night, so I think my adrenaline's like, Okay, we are live.
Mhm.
All right. We are live with our tribe here. Thank you for tuning in if you're tuning in live or with the replay. My name is Rebecca Abraxas, and this channel is all about remembering our greatness together. And today, I'm so excited to have Meghan Lockhart here today from Canada, and we're talking about manifesting, how this February of 2022 is a huge open portal for manifesting. And Meghan does a lot of work with priestess work and the feminine energy and embodiment, moon cycles. So we're going to talk to Meghan about feminine energy and about manifesting and about magnetism and how that all fits together. So I'm going to let Meghan talk about a little bit about what she does and how um, the topic of magnetism really comes into play this month with this open portal of manifestation. So Meghan, take it
Mm. Yeah, thank you so much for having me back, Rebecca. It's
away.
exciting. We had a conversation before about manifestation, especially with the lunar cycle. So I'm excited to talk about it in a different way, with magnetism and embodiment and frequency. So I show up in the world as an intuitive mentor, as a womb priestess, as a priestess of Magdalene, and I specifically work with women and support them to get their purpose work in motion. And I do that through embodiment work. I do that through cyclical living and womb awakening and womb work and things like that. So the themes of magnetism and supporting women to really connect with their body and connect to their innate power, their innate wisdom is something that I'm really passionate about and I really love supporting women to do.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, with how I bring manifestation into my work and into my life in the divine feminine way is a lot of working with magnetism and embodiment. And a lot of it
Yeah.
to me is about getting in alignment to soul, in alignment to the most essential self, higher self, um, and really letting that be the guiding light
Mm.
and letting the clarity of what it is that you want, desire, need in your life, and then holding that intention as a seed that you
Mm.
plant inside of you, and then allowing yourself to embody the quality in your everyday living.
Mm.
And through different rituals and through different practices, you can increase your magnetism so that you're working with the electromagnetic field to actually call in and attract what you're looking for. So I don't work with manifestation in a very specific way. I know a lot of people do, and
Mhm.
it's never been my practice to, um, try to manifest certain things. But I think it's just, I really love synchronicity and I love just holding something in my heart and just knowing that that's what I want, knowing that's what I desire, and just watching for the signs, looking for the synchronicities, looking for the messages, and being, pleasantly surprised by what comes in, and also okay if it doesn't come in.
Yeah.
Not being too attached to it, which is not always easy, especially when you really want something.
Yeah.
So it's such a big topic, and there's so many ways we could go with it.
You know, it is, and I really love where you're going with it. So thank you. When we talk about like it's not specific, I'm on TikTok a lot and I see a lot of specific law of attraction and manifesting tools, and they're very specific with their things, and it's very um, focused. But I love what you said about, it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle of vibrationally aligning with our higher self. And it's a lifestyle of what we practice, we become.
Mhm.
What we practice kind of shows up. And how that's kind of fun because it's not going to always show up the way we think it's going to. Sometimes
Mhm.
it does, when we saw The Secret, they're like, oh, the bike showed up, the car showed up. But when I think we really get into our expanded awakening journey, we start to really, like you said, the serendipity and the trust. We trust that we can let go of the reins a bit. Maybe the car, we can create that as deliberate creators, but maybe it's not for our highest good. And we're really walking in that path of awakening and ascension journey, meaning that we are working on raising our vibration and then sustaining it for longer periods of time and really bringing ascension energy into the body, like you're talking about embodiment. um, I think what's really important here is this idea of what we practice, we become, and
Mhm.
knowing that we can be a deliberate creator, meaning that we live consciously and we live with what's coming up and we process and um, we lighten our load, right? We practice law of subtraction, which is letting go of the density and watching ourselves lighten up. And from there, we expand. And the way I see manifesting is like you're saying, is we embody a frequency and then we expand it. And I wonder if we're not exactly attracting it, but we're expanding our universe. Like we get to, by the vibration we expand that vibration out, and then things just line up to match that frequency. It's almost like an expansion process rather than an attraction process. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
liking that visual because I feel that. I do like when, especially I think when you're really trying to work with bringing in something specific, or even if it's not something specific, just the general energy of something. Um, there is a lot of expansion that's happening in the electromagnetic field from the heart, from the womb space or the hara, or the different centers in the body that are opening and expanding. And it's almost like I kind of, I like the way you're explaining it, and I also kind of see it as like that's expanding and you're opening into it, and then it's kind of also there's this portion of magnetism, because I think there's the electro, and it's like the putting out and the expansion, but then
Mm,
there's also the really magnetic pull that we have. And so I kind of feel
mm, mm,
like expansion, magnetic frequency that's happening simultaneously, where you're expanding into something, but then there's certain parts of your body, like especially for women who have womb spaces, that's a very magnetic earth kind of gravitational energy, so then it's being pulled in through that center. And for men it would be called the hara.
I
Or
love that. I love that. And it in my awakening journey, like in the beginning, way back in my 20s, when I was just like, it's this, it's this. And now in my 50s, I'm just kind of like, it's both. It's, you know what I mean? There's never a clear cut. I think it's, yeah, expansion and magnetism's all happening at the same time. Yeah, the older I get, the more it's like, it's everything. It's all of it. So I love that. Yeah, we're being magnetized, we're expanding, magnetized, which brings me into, I just want to say something about, because I put it in the title, that the manifesting portal is open right now. That I don't know all the details, but I have been seeing so much about like sun flares, and there's no planets in retrograde right now, and that there's certain frequency energy we're lined up, and we're getting streamed. It's just like there's a portal of high frequency energy that we can take advantage of in this February 2022. And when we have that opportunity, it's nice to kind of have these reminders that we are magnetizing, that we are expanding, that it is a time to remember our greatness. It is a time to be stepping into the ability we have to be a deliberate creator. We're going to create no matter what, but if we want to be conscious about it and deliberate, and that's why I think your work on the planet right now is so important, Megan, because you teach people um, how to be very deliberate, right? Very deliberate about um, what's coming up for them, deliberate about embodying, deliberate about just expanding consciousness in their lives. And that's just powerful, powerful work. Um, I just realized that your Megan has the H after it.
Mhm.
But I've been seeing in your emails that the H is before it. Sorry. I've been spelling your name wrong. Unless I'm having a dyslexic moment. I'm like,
I
oh,
don't know.
anyway.
I've never noticed that. I always spell my name the same way, so.
Weird. I kept making sure. I kept seeing the H before the G. That is so weird. Maybe I've been yeah, that's very strange. Sorry. Megan's name is not how I spelled it, everybody. Okay. So do you want to explain the possibilities that happen with your groups and how that's a great way to practice?
Yeah. Just before I speak into that, I'll kind of I want to speak a little bit into this energy that this manifesting portal that you're speaking to, and kind of talk from a divine feminine perspective, because I think
Yeah.
this is really cool. I didn't know about the mother arc and what you were talking about with this manifestation portal, and it's so cool because I love how different things overlap. And so this year we're in 2022, which is a very Magdalene year,
Mhm.
very divine feminine year. And so for people who aren't familiar with Magdalene is really a consciousness, and it is a divine feminine consciousness. And there's this wave of divine feminine energy that's really pillaring in. And so there's a lot of talk about how this millennial, like the 2000s, is all about the divine feminine. And, the 1000s was all about the divine masculine. And so there's already like this time of the divine feminine and that goddess energy and earth energy sort of ascension process happening. And then we come into 2022, which is like an accentuation of this energy that's already been happening. And two is a Magdalene number. So we're literally, and then if you think 2 plus 2 plus 2, 2022, in numerology is 6, which is a love number, which is the frequency of the Magdalene. And in February, we're coming to 2/22/22. So we're coming into this like exceptionally strong love portal. So you could think about it as the Magdalene energy, or you could think about it as a love energy, whatever languaging works better for some with people. But this really is like a love year, an expansion year. And then this portal opening up with that 2/22/22 energy is very powerful love energy. And I feel like love is so foundational to manifestation, because coming into the frequency of love brings us into the frequency of expansion, just like you were saying. And really it's if we're just opening our field and expanding into it, and we're just expanding into what it is that we desire. So I just wanted to speak into that because I thought that those overlays were really cool.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And you're like, what? And I'm like, you just spoke to it beautifully. Exactly. And I wanted to say too, is when we're talking about manifesting with this love energy here, it's just like, isn't that why we usually want to manifest the physical things, to feel love, to feel joy? Isn't that, when we think about, manifesting physical reality, we usually do it because we want to be accepted. We want to be loved. We want to feel this sensation of, a belonging. And so it's just interesting that that's how I see manifesting. It's just like, if we can be that love, that frequency of love, then anything, we can live anything we want, right? It's just, and then we do the shadow work. And I think that's what women's circles are so good at, is doing the shadow work in circles. And it's that law of subtraction, bringing that shadow up. And sometimes we're reaching for a physical thing as a result of our wounded inner child. We think that'll make things better. And when we get clear and we really do some healing work at that shadow, we realize that we're worthy and that we're loved by the universe no matter what. And when we live from that vibration, then what comes up and what we deliberately create from that love frequency, not from I have to create this because I want to feel loved. You're already loved and we can feel that. You know what I mean? So it's just like
Oh, yeah.
it's a beautiful month to really feel loved and to manifest from there.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like you articulated so beautifully. There's such a difference between manifesting from lack and manifesting from that abundant
Mm,
overflow love feeling state. And I
yeah.
feel like the results can be very different because sometimes we say, I want to manifest abundance. But if we're coming from a place of lack, it's like sometimes the abundance that you manifest is an abundance of debt, you know, or an abundance of,
Oh God, yeah, you are right on with that. That is so true. You
yeah.
know, it's been my experience. My husband and I have been really putting out there, some abundance manifesting, but just feeling like okay with where we are and really loving our home and like, whatever. And this month, February hit, and my husband cannot get enough jobs. Like, I mean, he's gotten so many jobs, and he can't like he's a video marketer, and he's just like, oh my god, I'm overwhelmed with work. Like this is, and then I'm getting gig after gig with music and stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like like it's just everything's coming in, and it's just like when you ask for abundance and you be abundance, and then it starts matching up, be ready for it because you're like, oh my god. But it's interesting that February's turning out this way. I was just like, wow, like who knew? And it's not like I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm working harder. I feel like I'm hardly working, yet more abundant this month financially than I have been in a lot of probably a few years with the so it's so interesting when it lines up too. My
Mm,
husband too, he's just like all this stuff's coming in and it doesn't feel like you're working harder. It just feels like wow, it just starts showing up because you're magnetized to it, right?
that's
If you're
beautiful.
if you're
Yeah.
being the energy, yeah.
Yeah, and then from kind of like an embodiment nervous system perspective too, it's like when you're doing like I know that you have such a practice of expansion and holding the light and all of these practices that you've been doing for I'm sure years and decades. And so it's like your ability to hold the energy of what's coming through you has expanded and I feel like that's such
Yeah.
a part of manifestation as well is sometimes we want something so bad, but if our nervous system doesn't feel like it can handle it, then
Mm.
we sort of subconsciously repel it because it's kind of like, I can't handle that. I energetically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually just cannot hold that amount right now. And so sometimes I feel
Totally.
there's
Yeah.
also that part of the manifestation process of getting the body on board of what does the nervous system feel safe with? Because sometimes having that abundance of gigs flow in or work flow in could be like a shock to the nervous system. And so if you're already feeling depleted or overwhelmed or something, then sometimes there can be that subconscious self-sabotage or of
Mm.
like pushing it away because really what on some level you want it to come in, but then on another level really what you want is just rest or restoration. And so there's just so many different components with looking at the body and the mind and the spirit and the emotions and what everything can hold space for when that abundance actually flows in and how it integrates into the life.
That is such a powerful message because when we get frustrated that, oh, my life isn't looking in, we're we're really sabotaging ourselves. What would be helpful to do is to really take a look at all the layers. I work with like something called the five koshas. I call the five layers of transformation, where we really look at like the bliss spiritual body, the intuition witness body, mental emotional body, energetic, and the physical. We
Mhm.
look in, we take a look into all of those because you're right. Like there's contradicting frequencies sometimes, and that's why that shadow work's so important because you're like consciously you're like I am deliberately doing this and there is some power when you take the flashlight and focus here. And when Abraham Hicks says you really can override things. However, it's an intense, diligent discipline of focus if you're going to do it that way. But going into the subconscious and looking at being with some of the energies and you know allowing them with grace and like you would like a young child who is having a hard time, hold it. And I'm really learning this practice myself, but it's just like that, so powerful. Is this like what you're saying is, you know, you're asking, it's coming, and then something is blocking it. And that can feel so frustrating I know I've lived that myself. And it really is going into those deeper layers and just really looking at it, allowing and being present with it, integrating it. And I think that's what both of us do is we have these practices to really clear the field, work with the nervous system, shadow work. So do you want to name some of the things that you do with women women for their nervous systems to hold this new reality that they want to bring in?
I do a lot of work with the nervous system through the womb space.
Mm.
And, you know, you don't have to have a physical womb space for this because we all have a mystical womb space, but the womb space is such a holding ground, and we can even think about that as the body. So I do a lot of work with supporting women to come into relationship with their ability to hold and to feel held and to feel supported. And so I do that by supporting them to get in connection with their womb space, their mystical womb space, and their body as the holder. And also, connecting to earth and the great mother energy and goddess, so that there's kind of this feeling of being able to lean back into something. And it's really about bringing forward that archetype of the great mother that exists within everyone, but bringing it forward inside of the women that I work with, so that they're not looking outside of themselves to be supported, which of course we want to have support outside of ourselves, but it's about supporting them to strengthen their own capacity to support themselves, and to feel held and to feel like they have the capacity to hold, to then be more magnetic to supports in their lives in the physical world. And so I really work kind of from the inside out, from the root up, and I do a lot of work with supporting them to root down into earth and to grow their roots, to grow their foundation, and to expand and to hold and to rise from that place. So there's a lot of different mystical womb practices that I guide them through. It could look like toning, it could look like breath work, it could look like visualization. I do a lot of ceremonial temple work as a priestess, where we're working alchemically and kind of like bringing in that shadow work of integrating some of the wounds that might keeping them in a dense energy or a stagnant energy, and integrating that into wholeness and helping that expansion through that tantric principle to happen, of that liberation of shadow to light and to transcend. So those are some ways that I work with it.
Beautiful, because we need those practices because that helps them expand into trust.
Mhm.
When we have trust, we are the energy of what we want to be living, right? We just have to trust it's there. We're living it already. It's done. We just start. It's right here in front of us. And all of that work helps us just release any of those patterns that are gripping, right? That are lacking of trust, that are scared, that are, it's like you really work with that fear, and then like the grounding in the womb and stuff. Yeah, it sounds like amazing practices. I'm gonna
Yeah.
come up there to Canada and work with you.
Oh my goodness. And then the compassion piece, because I find that people generally want most what is most challenging for them to receive. Like I was really thinking about this. Like sometimes there are parts of someone's lives where it's like everything is going so well, except for this part of my life is
Oh, I can relate to
like
that.
it's like that rock in your shoe that you just can't get out on a hike.
Yeah, what the hell is that?
Like,
Because that definitely is my life. Like parenting, like there's just like everything's like working out blissful, and then like parent, I'm like, this is like the rock in the shoe. What the heck is this? Please speak
yeah,
to that.
yeah,
How is this
exactly.
fitting in with the rest?
Yes. And so I just really want to normalize that, because for everyone listening, you're going to have that rock in your shoe in some part of your life. And it's like one of those things where sometimes where that rock in the shoe is where we're trying to get the most satisfaction, or we're trying to manifest the most
Mm.
ease or something like that. And so I just wanted to bring in this place of compassion. And we really work with an archetypal, I really work with the archetypal frequency of the goddess of compassion to support women to really be able to hold forgiveness for themselves that it hasn't happened yet, or hold compassion and love for self of, can I love myself anyways? That even if this part of my life isn't how I envision it, even if this isn't how I want it to be, even if I feel like I'm failing in this area or I'm lacking in whatever area, can I still love myself? And so I really work to strengthen those tools of, even when you're not getting what you want, because we are these beautiful co-creators, but sometimes there's just that rock in the shoe where it's kind of like, this is just so hard. And it's because there's just so much trauma and karma and shadow that needs to be integrated. And there's a soul curriculum and there's a wisdom in it. And so sometimes it's kind of, how can you pull apart the layers to uncover what is the wisdom of why this is happening? And how can you hold yourself in love through that process? And so I just kind of wanted to hold in the other part of the manifestation when it's not happening, and it's so frustrating and so heartbreaking that that's a normal part of the process too.
Oh, so beautifully said. I just feel so touched by what you just said. That's so beautiful. And that like the pebble in the, in your shoe is actually maybe where you're trying the hardest, but that trying and pushing up against is kind of creating a resistance. I on my TikTok, and I think I just did a video on this, is like when our stream is moving fast,
Mm.
sometimes if a certain part of us hasn't uh, gone with it, right?
Mhm.
We haven't gone downstream with it. We're still paddling upstream. We can feel like we hit a wall. Like we could feel like we just been blasted. We're like, where the heck did this come from? And
Mhm.
sometimes it's from, that lack of self-forgiveness and that trying so hard, and it's, that surrender and that trust and going downstream is what's required in that area. I know that for me it's parenting my teens, and it's been a rough one. It's been a huge boulder in my shoe. And the guilt and the shame that is built up. And I can see really what you're saying is the forgiveness and loving myself, and to let go a little more. I could let go for sure more, and let that pebble out of the shoe from that. So that was beautifully said.
Mm.
Um, I did want to mention the mother arc because I put that in the description, and it's just, I think you really represent the mother arc that's coming through, like you said in the astrology, or the numerology earlier in the talk, that the 2000s is feminine energy, it's love energy. And I did an automatic writing, and I kind of think of things a little differently sometimes. Um, the feminine and the masculine is a vibration to me, and I have a hard time with those words because of all the gender topics that we're on lately in current affairs, and I feel like um, I feel like words have vibration. And when we talk about masculine and feminine energy, and we talk about masculine and feminine genders, I just feel like it's getting clouded. I feel like, so I really honor people who live with that idea. And I'm a yogi, and we talk about the masculine, feminine, and the Bengali and the Shishimana, the central channel. But I sometimes feel, um, especially in current affairs, that it kind of mixes things up a little bit. But regardless, the mother arc, you said you didn't know anything about it, but you talked about it beautifully, about like what the 2000 is and the work that you're doing. It's the mother arc, it's the feminine energy, and the way I see it, it's a higher frequency. You know, it's an expanded frequency. It's at the frequency of love, like you said. And so I'm just going to read a little bit of my automatic writing that I wrote a few days ago about the mother arc. And the reason I'm reading it is because I feel like it's a really powerful time, like Megan's talking about, to manifest, to forgive ourselves, to come into that love frequency, to magnetize, and to really have unconditional love for ourselves. And that's where we really truly manifest expanded consciousness and ascension for the planet. So here we go. Mother arc. I too know nothing about the mother arc, but I wanted to ask if my higher self did.
Hmm.
So this is what came up, and I don't know. See who wants to hear it. Mother arc, wave of golden light with frequencies of compassion, love, and high light particles. Mother father paradigm is for people to be able to relate. It's no gender, or there's no gender or true polarity to it. The wave is important for humanity and Earth to ascend higher. A new paradigm with this way of frequency that will sit with Earth for a while. It is on target and getting closer and closer. From the distant universe of Ka through wormhole vortex, here because of a vibrational calling. So I don't know what some of that means, but if anyone knows what the universe of Ka is in the replay, could you let us know? Because that sometimes comes through automatic writings is something that I consciously know nothing about. And that it's a wormhole like that it's coming through a wormhole vortex. I have no idea. Although when I did do this automatic writing, I did see kind of this kind of energetic folding into each other that looks kind of like a wormhole. And I feel like the image I had was like the mother arcs kind of coming from a different universe and coming through that into our space. So that's what I have on the mother arc. And I really feel like the mother arc is helping us with true manifesting, which is from that love energy. And that's why we choose everything that we want to create on the deepest level, I think. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Anything that brought up for you, or any knowing that came up for you around that?
Yes. Yeah, that's so interesting. I couldn't tell you the exact things, but I would love to make a few connections of threads that speak
Please.
kind of some of the language I've already been using, with kind of like that. And I know what you mean, the divine feminine, the masculine energies and the genders, it does get muddled. So when I speak about the feminine energy, it's literally a frequency, literally an energy, and that's all
Yeah.
I'm referring to. So when I think about kind of, I was talking about how that divine feminine, we could call it mother energy, earth energy, lunar energy, is really this millennium that's happening. It's really rising. And because that masculine energy has been so strong for so long, that it's kind of like that feminine energy is rising to meet. And we have the mythology through that in so many stories, like in the tantric texts and the yogic texts and all of these different traditions, like you were talking with the Ida and the Pingala nadis. But why I wanted to talk about that is because the Ka, I don't know what the universe of Ka is. That's really interesting. But I do know that Ka is kind of like the energy body in Egyptian mysticism and traditions. And there's a book called the Magdalene Manuscripts. And they talk about how Mary Magdalene actually used sex magic with Jesus Christ to support his Ka body to expand, which is what helped him to resurrect,
Hmm.
go through that death portal, walk through the underworld, rise up. And it was all about him actually strengthening his Ka body. So that was it. So I just find this parallel interesting that you're talking about the Ka universe, and I'm talking about how this is the age of the Magdalene, and through
Yeah.
mysteries, it was kind of like what was planted 2,000 years ago during that time, that Magdalene and Yeshua would have been doing that mystical work with the Ka body, that it was prophesied that those seeds would be awakened now.
Mm.
So I'm just finding that parallel really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So like and part of
Yeah.
me, yeah, is the universe of Ka like a, yeah, is it a true universe, or is it, yeah, is it talking about Yeshua? Is it talking about the expanded light body? Is there a universe where people are just light bodies that this is coming through, and the magnetism of the earth is calling it because she's a being manifesting? So
Hmm.
yeah.
All of it is so possible.
Yeah, I know. That's what's so fun about conversations like this.
And then the other thing that I loved that you're talking about is how it's like there's no gendered, it's not this or that. And really what those frequencies that I'm talking into, like the divine masculine, the divine feminine, is this age is they're really supposed to be coming into unification. And so I feel like that's
Mm.
a different way of describing the same thing.
I
Where,
think you're right. And I feel like it's almost manifesting physically when we're seeing all like the non-binary transgender um people that are experiencing this in a physical body. I feel like it's like, when I work at the five koshas and in yoga science, it's like everything starts with a frequency and then it works up into the physical. And so
Mhm.
here we are talking about the Ida and Pingali coming into the central channel to create the channel of light. And it's almost like physical bodies are getting that too. It's like with non-binary experiences in bodies, it's almost like, you know, they're almost like whole beings, like they've come into whole. I just think it's part of evolution of the light coming through people. I think it's an
Mhm.
interesting I find it so interesting. On TikTok I follow a lot of people who are non-binary and just getting their take on it, and I just makes me sad to hear how much abuse they've received. And when I think it's like, just because it's different, but different means like I just feel it's part of our evolution
Yeah.
personally. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, well, anyway, this has been a wonderful conversation. I love talking to you. And we have about, yeah, 3 minutes to wrap up. Is there anything you would like to end with, or tell anybody?
Yeah. I would just love to share how people could get in touch with me. So I offer this work, this of embodiment and supporting women to come in deeper connection with their bodies and this energy. And I offer something called the Circle of Magdalenes, which is a monthly gathering. And it's really like going through a ritualized practice where you're literally invoking that frequency of the Magdalene, that archetypal frequency of love, through different rituals to really strengthen your capacity to walk and to lead from love. And so I offer those monthly. And I guess the best way for people to find out about it is just on my website, which is
Okay.
wild-moon-temple.com.
Can you say that one more time? I feel like it got a little wobbly. Okay.
Wild-moon-temple.com.
Oh, okay. Wild dash, and I'll put it in the description of this video too.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, I just love talking to you, and I'm a trained priestess as well, and I kind of practice some different things now. So I love coming into your perspective on things and weaving them with some different things I'm practicing with. It's just really fun. So
Mhm.
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and
Yeah.
thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get some people on the replay, and we'll spread this message far and wide.
Yes, the mother.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to stop this for now. Okay. And broadcast.